Hey everyone, welcome back with Beano Mac. Today's episode will compare WCW vs. the World developed by the Manbreeze and AKI's first outing on N64, WCW vs. nWo World Tour. See AKI's humble beginnings in this episode and the start of a legendary series of titles. Let's break it down. Alright, it's that time again. Tell the tape. World Tour was developed by the AKI Corporation exclusively for the N64 on December 2nd, 1997 in the US, and in Europe on February 12th, 1998. According to VideoGameCharts.com, it sold 1.69 million worldwide. WCW vs. the World was developed first by the Manbreeze, which is what AKI was called back then. It is exclusive to PlayStation 1 and released in Japan first on September 13th, 1996. Then the United States got to play March 28th, 1997. WCW vs. the World has sold 1.46 million. Let's see what's inside both titles. To start off, the intros for both titles are vastly different. In WCW vs. the World, we have a full motion video showing off the chaotic and awesome action of WCW. It's simple but effective, and isn't so long that it wears out its welcome. The Nintendo 64 couldn't handle videos well, so AKI had to create an intro from scratch using the in-game models. It's brief, but action-packed and sets the scene. WCW vs. the World definitely has a primitive look to it. The bodies are in unconnected segments. Reminds me of ants. But it's important to note that we were only about 2 years into the PSX's life cycle, so 3D graphics were a tad tricky still. Both have some cartoony graphics, but I still think they're pretty charming. I have a soft spot for these early AKI graphics. The arenas in both games follow a similar format. It seems in WCW vs. the World, the stadiums are all the same but the rings have different designs. Both games have very colorful arenas and logos that are very eye-catching. No commentary is available in either title. Alrighty, let's go over the gameplay. WCW vs. the World was created by what would become AKI, but the gameplay isn't what made the N64 title so popular. You have 3 sets of strikes. Tap X for weak, hold X for medium, and then press R2 for strong. For grapples, you have similar options. Press O or press O and hold the direction for weak grapples. You have different weak grapples depending on your distance too. Then for stronger grapples, you need to hold down the O button for about a full second. Your opponent needs to be dazed for behind grapples because they're impossible otherwise. To Irish Whip, hold the direction you want to throw them, then double tap the circle button. You can either do a rebound attack or press L1 to do a leap frog. Square is reserved for blocks and reversals. It also is what you need to press in order to enter and exit the ring as well as picking up down to foes. R1 does a back dash, L2 taunts. To do top rope dives, press X towards the corner you want to jump from. And finally, for finishers, you need to build your spirit by beating up and reversing so that it starts to glow white. You'll do an automatic taunt to signal this as well. Then, ideally while they're dazed, hold down circle until you raise your arms to activate your special move. You have a pretty generous amount of time to apply one. The movement is a bit stiff and perhaps sluggish, but you can see animations here that would be used all the way until No Mercy. In World Tour, the gameplay was switched up to the now famous AKI grappling system. Tap A to activate a weak grapple, hold A to activate a strong grapple. Once in a grapple, press A, B, or one of those with up or down. Each option does a different move. Then you have weak strikes, strong strikes, Irish Whip rebounds, dives, and more. Just like in its predecessor, you need to build momentum by pulling off moves successfully while defending properly against your opponents. Once in the special state, use strong grapple and flick the analog stick to apply the finisher this time. Match options are limited to singles matches in vs. the World. In World Tour, you have 4 options: singles, tag team, 2-on-1 handicap, and 4-man battle royal. You can also edit the rules to have tornado and elimination tag and handicap matches. Humble beginnings for sure. Both of these games are based off of the Japanese wrestling titles Virtual Pro Wrestling and Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, which feature a variety of popular Japanese wrestlers and promotions that are changed into fictional likenesses in order to dodge copyright issues. For the WCW releases, they kind of added on the World Championship Wrestling talent. Most of the wrestlers in WCW vs. the World are these fictionalized Japanese wrestling stars at the time. Only 13 are actual WCW members and no nWo. For some reason, Super Delfin and Masahiro Chono, who I believe were a part of a talent trade between WCW and New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time, are considered a part of the WCW roster too. The actual WCW members include Hulk Hogan, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Lex Luger, Sting, Ric Flair, Rick and Scott Steiner, Dean Malenko, Ultimo Dragon, and Steven Regal. In World Tour, the World Championship Wrestling talent is similar but adds on the Giant Paul White, Rey Mysterio, and Diamond Dallas Page. Masahiro Chono was removed, but we now have the New World Order featured prominently here. Fake Sting, Buff Bagwell, Eric Bischoff, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Macho Man Randy Savage, and 6 were added to the roster as a result. Some characters swap promotions too. Scott Norton is a part of the nWo now, and Super Delfin is moved to the independent union based off of Michinoku Pro. Both games feature the same campaign modes. League Challenge. You select a promotion and a wrestler and fight for the respective titles. In WCW vs. the World, you have 6 promotions to go after and only singles title options. There's WCW, Empire Wrestling Federation, Samurai Wrestling Federation, Dead or Alive, Independent Union, and Neo Strong Wrestling. You unlock a new wrestler for completing each belt, but it seems like to unlock everyone, you need to win all titles with both a junior heavyweight and traditional heavyweight wrestlers. Then of course you need to win the ultimate title, the Super Heavyweight Championship Title League. In World Tour, you have only 4 promotions now, with WCW, Dead or Alive, and the Independent Union factions being the only ones to return. New World Order is now its own stable though. You have more belt options for promotions now too. There's heavyweight, tag, and cruiserweight belts in WCW and Dead or Alive. Then there's the tag team and single options in the nWo and Independent Union leagues that don't have weight classes tied to them. Complete those to unlock the whole World Wrestling Super Cruiser and Super Heavyweight options that have you take on the whole game almost. Simple modes where you fight one wrestler after another, but that by no means makes them bad. World Tour doesn't allow the creation of anything. WCW vs. the World, though, allows you to create up to 10 titles and defend them in tournaments or against friends in double title matches. All you do is name it, but it's something. Both games have a decent amount of side content. WCW vs. the World has best of 7. It's essentially an arcade mode again. You pick a wrestler and face 7 randomly selected opponents. Both games offer a 5-on-5 elimination mode. In the World, you have to select 5 members for each team. Then 1-on-1s occur. If defeated, that man is eliminated. A draw results in both being eliminated. Once all members of a team are eliminated, the opposing team wins. The World has an alternative version that's essentially a best of 5. Both have tournament and league modes. tournament in the world allows 2 to 8 single contestants to compete in a single elimination rules tournament. If defeated, you're out. Last man standing wins. You can also bet title belts in these as well. In World Tour, tournament has been upgraded to allow tag teams to compete as well. Finally, League Mode is a round-robin style tournament. All entrants face each other trying to win the most points. In Versus the World, you get 2 points for wins, 1 for draws, and 0 for losses. The one with the most points wins. In World Tour, it's mostly the same, but now you can do tag leagues, and wins will net you 3 points instead of 2. That's all for today's video, folks. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe to Bino Mac for more AKI reviews, comparisons, and rankings. Ring the notifications bell to check out my wrestling game playthroughs every Saturday and Wednesday. Above all else though, please remember to have a nice day.